Hi, how's your day going? My name's Tim Raptor, and welcome to this YouTube video. If you're new to my channel, well, so am I. I started this channel because I was talking way too much to my steering wheel about everything, and I just wasn't getting any feedback of any sort, and I decided I can do the same thing to the internet. So I'm trying it out. Today, I'd like to talk about one of my favorite TV shows. One of the main aspects of Stranger Things that makes it so much fun to watch is the incredible cast of main characters at the center of it. It does so many things right. You've got great suspense, you've got so much humor, but the main thing that this show does so well is the characters. So, in excitement for season 3, I've gone back through the first 2 seasons and I've ranked all of the characters from worst to best. Obviously, there are going to be heavy spoilers for seasons 1 and 2, so if you haven't seen those yet, I recommend you go watch them before you watch this video or season 3 of Stranger Things. Also, these rankings are completely my opinion, so if you think someone should have been higher or lower on the list, let me know down in the comments. So without any further ado, let's just jump into this list. Number 14, and at the bottom of this list, is Dr. Martin Brenner. It's not that he's a bad character, he's the villain of season 1, and he does that so well. It's just that he's not a very complex character. He wants Eleven's powers, and he'll do anything he can to get them back. The most interesting thing about him is the way he Mother Gothels Eleven and acts kind of as her father just so that he can take advantage of her powers. That has so many implications for her down the road, but it doesn't really do much to make him a more complex character. So that's why he is at the bottom of this list. Number 13 has to be Bob Newby. He's a very simple guy, and yes, he's a hero at the end of season 2, but the main idea of his character is that he represents kind of normalcy and the opportunity to have an ordinary life for the Byers family, and they really have to learn that that isn't an option for them, and that's something Joyce has to face. But that means that Bob has to be a very normal and ordinary guy. So I think the next 2 on this list are the ones that will probably make people the most upset with me. But for number 12, I have to go with Will Byers. You see, I think he's a great character and has a lot of potential, and I'm super excited to see him in season 3. But in season 1, despite the fact that the entire show hinges on Will Byers, he just isn't there for the entire show, and that's the point of it, but you don't really get to see him as a character. And then season 2, you get some good moments as he's suffering with the trauma, but then he becomes possessed very early on in the season, and most of the rest of the season he has this parasite in him that's making him do certain things, and he gets some great times where he's fighting that to communicate with his friends and really help them defeat the monster, but you don't get many times where Will Byers is just Will Byers. So I really look forward to seeing him in the future, but he's at the bottom of the list just because he hasn't had time as himself. Number 11 is not 11, it's Jonathan Byers. You see, he has a good heart and he loves his mom and his brother so much, but most of the time he just ends up being used as a foil and kind of as a contrast to Steve Harrington. And I feel like he has a lot of potential, he just tends to be used for other people's development rather than his own. However, some of his best moments come in season 1 when he's dealing with his mother potentially going insane after Will's gone missing, and he just is trying to find a way to keep loving and caring for her, but also deal with his brother's funeral arrangements and his mom just saying all these wild things that no one could believe. So he gets wonderful moments during that, but I think for the most part, he tends to be used for other people's development rather than really diving into his own character. We've made it to the top 10 Stranger Things characters, and coming in at this 10th spot is Billy Hargrove. You see, a good character elicits strong emotions from the viewers, and Billy does exactly that. The only thing is, the emotions he's eliciting are hatred. He finds a way to make you hate him from the very first instant he's on the screen, and that emotion just continues in every interaction he has. He is the human antagonist of season 2, and he does that so well. But the thing that makes him interesting is in one of the last episodes of season 2, you meet his father, and you see that Billy has really spent his entire life in this abusive relationship with his father, who beats him into submission. And that really is what Billy's vile really comes from. But at the same time, that doesn't excuse anything Billy does, because right after that, he goes off and does the worst thing he's done in the entire season. So it gives you an explanation and a depth to this character without making him sympathetic, which I think is something very interesting that they've done with Billy, and I'm really excited to see where he goes in the future. Lucas Sinclair is number 9 on this list, and while he's similar to Jonathan in the fact that he's often a foil or a contrast to people in the show, the fact that he's a part of the party kind of makes him automatically a little more interesting, because you have this group of 4 people that interact and dive deep into each other's characters. And in season 1, when he and Mike are disagreeing on whether or not they should trust Eleven, you really get to see what Lucas thinks about friendship. And then in season 2, you get a chance for him to pursue Max, and you get to see him be the one that she trusts. You see him change his attitude towards her and his behavior towards her so that she's comfortable enough to open up to him. 8th on the list is Mike Wheeler. He's the leader of the party and takes Eleven in and really shows her what it's like to have friends and to trust people. And you get to see his complete commitment to his friends. He'll do anything to protect the party, he'll do anything to protect Eleven, and most of all, he'll do anything he can to find Will. However, in season 2, after he's lost Eleven at the end of season 1, he just becomes bitter towards almost everyone, especially Max, and is just kind of a jerk all around, and that's really hard to watch. But the thing that redeems him in season 2 is the fact that he is there for Will the whole time, and they both feel very alone. Will's suffering with the trauma he's gone through, and Mike not having Eleven anymore, and that brings them together, and Mike once again will do anything to help Will get better. We're now halfway through this video, and coming in at number 7 is Nancy Wheeler. She has a really great arc in the first season. When Barb goes missing, she really comes into her own and does everything she can to try to find Barb. Her pairing with Jonathan really shows her that she's not looking for the comfortable life that most people her age are looking for, and she wants to find her friend. Where she really kind of falls off for me, though, is in season 2, where she does much of the same thing. She's going to find answers for Barb, or at least a way for other people to see the answers. But I feel like they just kind of left her where she was at after the first season. She's still really cool, but I feel like she's dragged along for the plot a lot more. It felt like they just needed to wrap up the Barb thing from last season, so much of her time in season 2 is spent following that plot point. I just feel like she didn't really grow much, didn't get much of a chance to develop herself, and was just kind of left where she was after season 1. Maxine Mayfield, also known as Mad Max, takes up number 6 on this list. She really builds on the characterization of Billy because they're from the same household and Billy's abused by his father and she is abused by Billy. So while Billy takes all of this in and turns it into hatred, Max knows that she has the ability and the capacity to feel that way, but she makes an intentional decision, and she tells Lucas about this. She makes an intentional decision to not feel that hatred, not feel that anger. We've made it to the top 5 characters in Stranger Things, and the 5th spot goes to Joyce Byers. She's really the ultimate mom. When Will goes missing, she believes in even the slightest shred of hope that he's still out there, and she clings to that even when everybody in the town thinks she's insane for doing so, and she will go to any length to find her boy, even if that means going into another dimension. And then in season 2, after he gets sick, she is willing to do anything and go to any lengths to save her boy, even if that means almost killing him, which sounds counterintuitive, but it does work. So these top 4 characters are ones I could talk about for hours on end, so I'll try to keep this as concise as possible. Number 4 is Dustin Henderson. He is one of the most reasonable people in the party. He's always being the peacemaker and trying to get people to figure it out. And his scientific knowledge and his knowledge of D&D is so useful every time they're up against a dead end. But then in season 2, when he discovers Dart, you see how much he clings on to that, and you realize that Dustin is a very lonely character. Even though he's got these close friends, he feels like all of them are closer than him, so he really needs a friend and a role model, kind of a father figure that he can grab onto, and Steve fills that void for him. Coming in at number 3 is Eleven. When we first meet Eleven, all we know is that she's very scared and that she's incredibly powerful. But then as we get to know her throughout the season, we get to see her past, and we get to see everything she's gone through with Dr. Brenner, and we get to see all of the guilt that is on her shoulders for opening up this portal that has brought the Demogorgon into Hawkins. We really get to see her go from being very scared to opening up and trusting Mike. And then in season 2, her and Hopper's relationship is incredibly powerful because she's gone through so much with Dr. Brenner pretending to be her father, and now Hopper really wants to be her father and wants to protect her, and she fights that because she feels trapped and she feels the way she did when Brenner had control of her. So she runs off and has this opportunity to develop, to realize that she's so hurt from her time under Dr. Brenner, but she also realizes the only place that that can be healed is at home with her friends and with Hopper. Number 2 is Jim Hopper. He is the protector of the characters that we love and just the protector of Hawkins, and he's willing to go to any length to protect the people he loves. But then on top of that, he's struggling with the loss of his young daughter to cancer. And in season 1, you see that by how hard he works to bring Will back, because he can't handle seeing Joyce Byers lose her kid as well. And then in season 2, he has an opportunity to be a father again with Eleven, and he takes her and he nurtures her, but he makes plenty of mistakes, and he realizes that. But we get to see how much he loves her and how much he wants to protect her through those mistakes. Well, folks, we've made it. The moment you have all been waiting for. The number 1 character in all of Stranger Things is the Mind Flayer. Just kidding, it's Steve Harrington. While Steve may not have some of the highs that other characters have, what he has is constant growth throughout all of the seasons. In almost every single episode, he's making mistakes and learning from them. It starts out when he's pursuing Nancy, but then he isn't just bettering himself for her. He starts to identify his selfishness and his bad friends and his short temper and everything else that needs changing, and he does that. A big moment is after he has graffitied the theater. He doesn't go immediately to Nancy to apologize. He goes back to the theater so that he can clean up and atone for his mistakes. And then he goes to Nancy. But then even when he finds her, he finds out that there's this giant interdimensional monster. And he has the opportunity to run away, but he realizes that he needs to stay and fight because that is what the right kind of person would be, and he wants to be that person. So he stays and he fights. And then in season 2, Nancy completely dumps him and leaves him behind. And he finds a way to be okay with that and to grow from that. And when Dustin reaches out to him, he really pours into that relationship. And by the time Nancy gets back around, he doesn't even need her to apologize to him. He just lets her know it's okay and says that he's found his real purpose. And I just think it's amazing to see his growth and how consistent it is throughout all the seasons. And then his relationship with Dustin is just fantastic, and Babysitter Steve is the best part of Stranger Things, and that is why Steve Harrington is the best character in all of Stranger Things. Thank you so much for watching this video, and just a reminder to let me know down in the comments what you think and also some other ideas of things you'd like to hear me talk about. I don't have a catchphrase or anything, so let's go with this. Have a dope day.